We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I remain your host, Mark Angelides. We're continuing our conversation with Liberty Nation's chief political correspondent, Mr. Graham J. Noble. Thanks for sticking around, Graham. Now, you produced a fascinating piece on the page of libertynation.com that as soon as I read it, I thought, well, of course they are. It's an obvious head slap moment after the fact, and that is that there is a narrative forming around potential 2026 midterm results. Graham, fill us in.
Yeah, well, this one is a kind of the narrative du jour in the media, or it was anyway for a little while, and the backstory here, of course, is we've got midterm elections coming up next year. Now, generally speaking, almost always, in fact, the party in power, in other words, the party that has control of the White House, usually loses in the midterms. You know, they lose a whole bunch of seats, particularly in a president's first term. Well, kind of with Donald Trump, it's kind of weird.
It's his second first term, yeah.
It's his first term. It's kind of strange. So who knows if precedent holds? But even actually in presidents, I looked back over the numbers and over the midterm results for the last multiple election cycles, and actually even in a president's second term, usually his party will lose, will come up as the losers in the midterms. And there's only been a couple of exceptions to that. I think George W. Bush was
after 9/11.
I think Bill Clinton as well was an exception in his first term, I believe. But so anyway, that's the backstory, is that you would think, you know, kind of history tells us that the Democrats are going to pick up a lot of seats in the midterms. Republicans are going to lose a lot of seats. But the way things are going, I mean, the Democrats are just, their approval ratings are just in the tank right now. I believe
I've just expanded on that. Historic lows in pretty much every poll over the last, for each of these polling companies, they go back about 30 to 40 years. They're polling on this. Historic lows in all of them. Yeah.
And so here's the question. We could actually be looking at, you know, unless things change quite a bit within the next, 10, 12 months, we could be looking at I hate using the word unprecedented. It's not quite accurate, but we could be looking at it.
Yeah.
We could be looking at an uncommon shellacking at the polls for the Democrats next year. And I think they're already trying to think about, well, how do we mitigate that? You know, in the public eye, how do we already kind of make the optics look not as bad for us? And so now they've come up with this all of a sudden, and that's why the reason why my title to my article you're talking about began with the words "got the memo," because. Yeah. As so often is the case, it suddenly seems that all the media outlets, all the left-leaning media outlets, are reporting the same story in the same way. And in this case, the message was, and I'm not sure how they think he's going to do this, but the message essentially was that Trump and the Republicans are going to rig the midterm elections. They're going to rig it. Now, I'm not entirely, as I said, I don't know quite the mechanics of how they would do that, but apparently... And also apparently it's no longer shocking apparently to suggest that an election might get rigged.
Yes, yeah, that was that was enough to get you cancelled back in late 2021. Early 2021. But yes, so there's so much chatter going around that Donald Trump's trying to fix the election. And part of that seems to be the accusations of major gerrymandering taking place, as if the Republicans are the only party that have ever tried to make seats safer for their core voters.
That's right, yeah.
And of course, Gavin Newsom saying, "Well, if Trump and the Republicans gerrymander Texas, we're gonna we're just going to do it everywhere. But you've already been doing it everywhere. All these.
Well, that's the thing, Mark. See, that is the key right there. The way what you just said, because the Democrats, the reason why they're set, and right now the only place Republicans are redistricting, and if you want to call it gerrymandering, that depends on your point of view, but where the Republicans are redistricting is in Texas. I mean, it's not like they're doing it in every one of the red states. But the thing is, the Democrats, they've already, states like Michigan have been already gerrymandered to the extreme. I mean, it's we're at the point where in some certain blue states, it's pretty much impossible for a Republican to win a seat in any congressional district in some of these states, because they've already been gerrymandered to the nth degree. And that's why I think the Democrats are panicking, because they're looking at Republicans doing some redistricting, and then they're thinking, well, how can we fight back? But they've already done all they can do. It's like, how do you redistrict anymore? It's like you've cut the cake into so many little slices now, you can't cut it anymore.
Crumbs, as Nancy Pelosi might say about anything really, except of course
that's right,
her trading bank book. So you've got this pervasive idea being pushed by a lot in the media. Also, some elected officials are talking about how that's some big name ones as well. But the fact is, if all of this redistricting or gerrymandering goes ahead, and Democrats still win, what does the narrative become? It's we were so successful, we overcame the cheating that took place. Is that the new narrative? And is there anybody in the country idiotic enough to buy that as a particular story?
Yeah, I think the way a lot of the left-wing media operates, they are so blatantly willing to just completely disregard what they were saying, a year ago, in order to say the opposite thing today because it suits them. And I think what you'll see, Mark, my view is that because of course you can't do that. You can't make all this hype about, the Republicans are going to rig the midterms, and then if the Democrats actually pick up more seats than the Republicans, yeah, exactly. What do they say? They're stumped. And what the media will do is the media will say, we simply never suggested that the Republicans were going to rig the midterms. What are you talking about?
It's we've always been at war with East Asia, and don't let your lying eyes tell you otherwise. But yes, we will see what happens, and please do go and read Graham's article on the page of libertynation.com. It's fantastic. Graham J. Noble, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.